broke myself. I'm so sorry. I cut your hair off. And I'm sorry I hurt you. And
No. I have to go. I have to go. Stop it. Stop it. I have to go.
Mommy, no. Mommy. Mommy, if Pinocchio became a real boy and I become a real boy, can I come home? That's just a story. The story tells what happens.
Stories are not real.
Mommy is real.
I don't know about you guys, but that totally ripped me apart when I saw it in the theater. And I don't know if you felt the same way, Dan, because I think you hate that movie.
Wait, I can't even tell what that is. What is that?
Lillian,
It's AI, isn't it? It's AI artificial intelligence. It's my favorite Spielberg film.
Oh, you guys are already killing me at the start of the show.
Yeah, gang up right away. Thank you, Lillian.
I love it. Hey, folks, this is Film Trace. It's a new season, newer season, I guess, for focusing on the wonderful indie studio. I guess you'd call them indie. They used to be indie. Now they're major. A24. It's kind of a retrospective of their films over the last 10 years. This is episode 3 that we're on, covering After Yang, which came out in 2022, technically 2021, I think, and then Late Spring, which came out in 1949. And of course, we're sort of comparing an A24 film to one of its inspirations, which would be Late Spring in this case. We have a special guest who's been on the show before, Lillian Crawford, who is a film critic and writer. Her work has been featured in Sight and Sound, BBC, The Guardian, Empire, GQ, and on and on. Lillian, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be back.
What have you been working on recently? Any sort of stuff that's been really exciting?
Yeah, I've just done the introductions to the collected screenplays of Terence Davis, which has been taking up a lot of my thought, which has been wonderful, going back through all of Terence's films. So yeah, that's been a really lovely project to be working on.
Awesome, fantastic. Chris, who selected this one? Did I select this? No, you selected it.
Yeah, I think this was one of my attempts at trying to concede to you by offering a completely unrelated option, because I know you're such a huge fan. It must be one of your top 10 movies of all time, of Kogonada's Columbus. And so when I saw that he was also behind this A24 film, After Yang, I was like, well, here's at least a sideways entry point, so Dan can at least gush a little bit about Columbus.
I can just talk about Columbus the entire podcast.
Columbus it's such a perfect film. I love
it's
Columbus.
just wonderful.
Yeah.
And honestly, it gets
Gorgeous.
better with like age as well. Like I watch it probably once or twice a year, and it doesn't fade for me.
Me too.
Yeah, it's interesting that you selected After Yang because, one of the things we like to do is kind of dive into our histories with the film right away, just to sort of get our biases out there in the open. Obviously, because I loved Columbus so much, I was so excited for After Yang. And I have to say, I had very mixed feelings about it when I first saw it. And so I have a weird relationship with the film where I want to adore it and love it like I do his previous work in Columbus. But I've always, and this continued on the rewatch for me on After Yang, struggled to connect with it emotionally. Lillian, what about you? Did you see After Yang right when it came out? Or is it a more recent watch? And what were your initial thoughts on the first watch and maybe second watch?
Yeah, I saw it. Like you, I'm a huge fan of Columbus. I've seen Columbus so many times. It's just, It's such a wonderful comfort film that I watch whenever I'm feeling a bit low. I just find it so gentle and beautiful. So yeah, I was incredibly excited when After Yang came out. I interviewed the cinematographer, Benjamin Loeb.
Nice.
So I got to see it I think I must have watched it on a screener link before it came out. So,
nice.
Well, I think it was out in the US and it hadn't come out in the UK. I can't even remember if it got a proper release in the UK. I don't remember it being in cinemas. I certainly didn't see it. I haven't seen it in a cinema, but I haven't revisited it since then. So I remembered loving it, and I remembered reading Kazuo Ishiguro's Clara and the Sun and thinking a lot about After Yang and the connection between Ishiguro's writing and his style and the sort of science fiction that Kogonada plays with, which is a science fiction that I really love, which is one that isn't very obvious. So yeah, I really, I really loved the film at the time, but I hadn't been back to it, so it's lovely to revisit it.
Yeah, it's such a weird like shift, right, from Columbus to here, even though you can definitely tell it's the same filmmaking style, but it's obviously a complete 180 in terms of storytelling. At the heart of it, there is this sci-fi film that also is, and we'll get to it a little bit later in the show, but so heavily influenced by the family dramas of Ozu. And it's interesting you mentioned Ishiguro, the author of Never Let Me Go, Remains the Day, and also that connection to Terrence Davies in your soon-to-be introduction.
Oh, very much so.
Right? What do you think was the entry point? Because I think like if you know anything about Kogonada, it is was before as a filmmaker known as one of the premier video essayists at Criterion, and so then when he comes to filmmaking world with Columbus, you get this like really beautiful, gentle relationship story blossoming amid this brutalist architecture. And then we shift here, we've got, not only a huge name in Colin Farrell, but also this futuristic world that is not quite as dystopian as I think a lot of people expect when they walk into a sci-fi film. And then you've also got the kind of, for better or worse, the whether it's baggage or a bonus for a lot of people. I'll never forget going to see Everything Everywhere All at Once and somebody walking in with an A24 hat, and that was kind of like a crystallized moment of like, oh, people, this is like going to wearing the band's T-shirt to their concert.
Amazing.
I don't think a lot of people, whether you were familiar with Kogonada or not, expected this kind of quiet movie about a family's broken robot. Is that fair to say?
I mean, it's tough though, because I think, and part of this whole season is discussing A24 and what it means and what it represents. In like, on the one hand, this film sits right in the wheelhouse of being, auteur-driven, kind of left of the dial writing and cinematography, doing something that is layered and rich and unique. That's all A24, at least their, general philosophy when they started. That's shifted obviously a bit recently. But on the other hand, so it fits in that way. On the other hand, it's to your exact point, A24 is also known for very, I don't know what the term, dynamic, explosive, very sort of edgy type of fare. Uncut Gems, The Lighthouse, Spring Breakers, Midsummer, Hereditary, all that sort of stuff. And this film does not fit at all in that aesthetic. So it is a weird sort of kind of double-edged sword, or kind of two viewpoints with this movie and how it fits into the A24 legacy. I don't know, Lillian, in talking with cinematographer and having sort of seen the movie right when it was getting released, did it sort of fit into your expectations? I mean, obviously you had a very close relationship with Columbus. It feels like an extension of that. But Columbus wasn't an A24 film. Right. Columbus was a Sundance Institute film. So it's an interesting sort of leap here that he decided to go to A24. So I'm kind of wondering, when you first saw it, did it meet your expectations? Did it sort of shift when you were watching it? Did it surprise you?
It's interesting. Sorry, I was just thinking about you talking about it in the context of A24, and I remember thinking that Everything Everywhere All at Once really surprised me as an A24 film, because it was so sort of blockbustering in its aesthetic and its approach, and that sort of dynamism, as you put it. But I don't know. I think that A24 does have this sort of quieter side. I mean, something like Lady Bird or First Cow. I think First Cow was A24, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the side of A24 that I perhaps lean more into. I don't like the sort of brasher films that you mentioned necessarily. So yeah, I think that wasn't something that I was sort of had much thought about at the time, but in retrospect I can sort of contextualize it as an A24 film, and I think that's really interesting. But yeah, I mean, coming out of Columbus, I'd been waiting for Kogonada's next film. I mean, still am. Although I saw the trailer for his next film, and it looks completely different again. Right. In fact, I didn't even realize that it was a Kogonada film until I was looking at the Wikipedia page, and I thought, oh, that film was a Kogonada film. So it may, but I watched the trailer and didn't think it looked very good, and now I'm looking forward to it. So it's amazing
it's just
how that can change it.
Right. Hopefully, it's just how the trailer's cut.
I think so. It's very much in that sort of soppy trailer style. Right. And I refuse to believe that Kogonada would actually fall into that sort of, I want to say, blatant emotion. I think that's what I really love about Columbus is how restrained it in the way that Ozu's films are as well. I really love that sort of quietness that his characters have, which is true of Ozu. That it's not loud, but the emotions really just sort of hit you like a tidal wave. I mean, I think of like Ishiguro's writing, which he's my absolute favorite writer, and I just think of something like Remains of the Day or Never Let Me Go, and how the emotion just absolutely hits me at the end of those books. And I think that the same happens in a Kogonada film or an Ozu film, where it's just sort of all of these emotions sort of under the surface, a very delicate surface, and then right at the end it sort of hits you. And also that play with I mean, you mentioned with Ishiguro, I think the sort of and Terence Davis is like this play with memory that I think is really interesting, and sort of images of memory. I mean, clearly he has more money with After Yang than he did with Columbus, and I think that he uses that very well.
Yeah, so here's where we dig in. Maybe Dan, you can go off a little bit, because I'm stuck. I just watched After Yang for the first time last night. I was very excited to finally sit down. I wasn't able to put it on until like 10 o'clock because we had a storm and our power went out, and it was just like I was not in a good mood. But the film.
Did you fall asleep, Chris? Did you fall asleep?
No, I didn't. I didn't actually. I was actually completely entranced, and it really fixed my mood until the last act of the film, and we'll get into Ozu's Late Spring, but like I had just watched that a few days earlier for the first time also, and like that last act is just like as perfect as you could possibly want from this kind of quiet, gentle story. And I was totally feeling the vibes of that in After Yang. I loved the bizarre title sequence with the synchronized dancing, and then how it shifted right back into this really quiet, reflective state. I did think the cinematography was beautiful with all the ambers and this really kind of different, more delicate take on what the future could look like. But then as soon as Haley Lou Richardson's character enters the scene, I kind of felt more like you, Dan, where I was like, I don't know, like there's some interesting stuff with memory, and it almost feels like like it's trying to mess with your expectations in as much of a way that this kind of quiet filmmaking can, but the emotion didn't hit for me at the end of After Yang like it did with, say, Late Spring or even with Columbus. So what do we think happened here? I think the one piece that we haven't mentioned yet is that it is based on a short story. So Kogonada is adapting here compared to Columbus, which was a original screenplay, and also looking back at like an Ishiguro adaptation or Ozu's collaboration with his partner, which is where Kogonada got his name from. I don't know. I haven't read the short story by Alexander Weinstein, but it really felt like this was. It almost felt like I could not tell if it was underwritten or overwritten. It did feel like it didn't congeal with me in the way that I had wanted to, and I don't know if that's an expectations thing. I don't know if it would hit different on a second watch, which I'm curious to hear from both of you, since you saw it a second time, whether that felt more at home with what it was trying to say about familial life, since that is it's saying a lot of things about a lot of things, but in terms of its connection to Ozu and Kogonada's heavy inspiration from that filmmaker, where were you guys left with that third act?
Lillian, you go ahead. I mean, what was your thought on the third act?
Yeah, I really love it. I think that the that sort of addition of another sort of life to Yang is really moving and really beautiful. But maybe that's because I just really like Haley Lou Richardson, and I think she's wonderful. And I think a lot of the sort of, I don't know, it's a weird film to talk about in some ways, because I almost feel, even though I like rewatched it again recently, I still feel like I sort of dreamed it. It's got that sort of soporific quality to it that I find very enchanting, and it's sad. It's perhaps even it's more explicitly sad than Columbus is, I suppose.
Yeah, there's almost there's a very clear tragic element to the final third. I would say that ultimately I liked the final third most.
Oh, really?
Of the film, because I think as it kicks off, I think that's where I struggled the most with the film, is probably the first half, where it's trying to establish these emotional bonds between these characters. And I think Colin Farrell stands out. I mean, he's kind of the protagonist, I would say, in the beginning. We're following him mostly. It's kind of over his shoulder for the most part. But I think the connection between him and his wife and his child, I just struggled. I struggled with seeing it and feeling it. The final third, it's not even the final third, it's the second half of the film, where it switches almost to this, and there's these little noir elements going on, where there's a mystery woman, there's a search for clues, there's kind
it turns into Blade Runner quite explicitly at one point.
Exactly.
Good point, yeah.
So those elements I really, really liked. And, the character of Ada is her name. And I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to ask a basic plot point that I was a little bit confused by. So Ada is a clone of like her great aunt, I think, right?
Yep.
The original Ada obviously had some sort of very deep emotional relationship with Yang, and then she was killed in a car accident. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Because there's that scene, the only way we really know that is a single shot of like a picture of her in like a memorial. Right? And I had to go back and pause it, and I read all the signs. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm thinking is happening. So there's a very clear tragic element to the final third of it. The problem for me, I think, is that that's a different story than the connection between the father, the daughter, and Yang, and the family unit. I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't find my way into that story and that group and their emotion. I couldn't find a path to connecting with it. The plot points and the sort of noir-y stuff, instantaneous connection, because I love that stuff. I think it's fascinating. It also propels the story forward, gives us something to engage with in terms of, oh, who is this person? Are they going to get Yang back on? What is on this memory? What is in, I forget what it was, like the alpha memory that he had to like compress the other memories to find. There's a lot of interesting elements at work, especially in the last half. I just kind of feel like it's two different movies. I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't find a way to connect with it like I did Columbus, which I, effusive about, right? I guess the big question for me then is, I'm not a parent, and Chris, you are. So I'm wondering, in terms of that sort of paternal experience that you have, was there something here in this film that really connected with you or stood out to you, or,
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because my favorite scene actually had nothing to do with any of the sci-fi elements. Is a scene where Micah, the daughter, comes to get a glass of water in the middle of the night. And we see Colin Farrell kind of interrogating her because he's up, like, trying to find these memories, watching, from the reader that was supplied to him so he could try to get some clues about Yang's previous lives. And but then that is cut off. He just says that he was watching a documentary, which is kind of a fun meta element, but ultimately just ends up letting this child actor focus on, usually Yang comes with me to get water. And Colin Farrell, Jake, asks, why didn't you come get your own water? Or why don't you let him go get you water? And she says, because I like to get my own water. And that just felt like a very beautiful, touching, like, moment of, like, father realizing something idiosyncratic about his child, and also seeing that kind of blossom of independence. Like, maybe there is a doable life without Yang, but she still greatly misses him, his companionship, even if she's, happy to and get her own water in the middle of the night. That felt very true, especially being a parent of multiple children and seeing that kind of sibling relationship, which I think is the concept in general, which is perhaps partially why I wanted to play the AI clip at the beginning of the show, because not only do you have that futuristic element, but also that piece about loss and trying to reconnect, because the whole point in the premise of After Yang is that they buy this android sibling to help Micah reconnect with her Chinese heritage, because she's adopted, and that all those pieces. And I think that's perhaps why Haley Richardson's character kind of threw me off. And I kind of agree with you, Dan, that it felt like two different films. Not in like a diptych way where it feels very like we get something from each. And I think there was an attempt there. But I think it's tenuous at best. And I was just so, maybe that's part of, my own, like, reader response theory going into the movie, is like I was so entrenched in the parent-child dynamic. And so when Yang, has all these previous memories, and I'd be interested to hear, Lillian, your take on this, especially with the connection to Davis's work. What do we think? Like, where is that connective thread between those two themes? The parent trying to figure out what to do that would be best for their child, and this idea that everybody, human or not, has their own, like, set of lives and lived experiences, and that was kind of brushed aside. Is that perhaps why Yang broke? That's never really broached in the film. I kind of saw the writing on the wall and was like, this is probably going to be an ending where, Yang doesn't come back. I mean, the name of the film implies that, and also we have kind of all these signs of Micah, even though she's constantly asking, like, where's Yang? When is he going to come back? She's also, growing up throughout the course of the film. Where do you see the connection between those two distinct stories, Lillian?
Yeah. I mean, I think the relationship to Yang is really interesting in that respect. And I think that it's a sort of, I mean, it's been done in so many other contexts. As I say, Clara and the Sun is almost identical in having a sort of robot sibling to a human, and that sort of incorporation of a robot into a family. I'm sure that Black Mirror's done it. A lot of this feels like a Black Mirror episode.
Right. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a series called Humans quite a few years ago over here.
Oh, like Alex Garland? No, it's Dev.
No, that's Dev's.
Yeah, my bad.
It's no. Humans was Gemma Chan and Catherine
That's
Parkinson.
right.
It
Yeah.
was it was on Channel 4 over here. But it was sort of similar, but again didn't really quite grapple with that. I think it's interesting and I suppose one of the better films that does it is Marinada's I'm Your Man with Dan Stevens and Sandra Hüller, which is a film is it Sandra Hüller? I can't remember. That's a film I really love. And I think that sort of idea of humans connecting to these robots, and also it's in AI, obviously. But of course that sort of adds this dimension of whether or not the question of whether the robot knows it's a robot, which I suppose after Yang sort of doesn't really engage with in the same way. It's actually the robot knows he's a robot, but the humans seem to forget that, or this idea, the idea of putting the body in a museum is a really interesting one. Like, do we treat this thing as a person and respect it in the way that you would a human body, or do you treat it as a robot? And I suppose also that those legacies and those difficulties of discovering that person meant something to other people, which I think is a really interesting theme. Like something like 45 Years by Andrew Hay, for example, about like discovering that your partner had a life with a different person, or discovering that they have a family somewhere else, and all these. I think these kinds of plots are really interesting, and I think that's what it sort of invests in the first half. It's really just getting at that sort of family dynamic, as I say, but then it's like engaging with, well, actually, did we really have ownership over this person and do we owe something to the other people that Yang had relationships with and had a connection to, and who connected with Yang? Do they have a sort of right to a single ownership? And I think that's the really interesting question that comes in that second half, particularly when sort of a romantic question is asked as well.
Yeah, and Kogonada spoke about his own personal connection to this, and probably gives some fair insight into that second half. In W Magazine, he said that his own two boys are adopted from Korea, and he says, quote, "We knew we wanted to adopt, but part of our desire to adopt from Korea is because that we knew there are, in these transnational adoptions, a lot of Asian kids who are adopted with whatever intent within white families, but the ability to connect them almost feels artificial or like a burden." And so that in retrospect helps illuminate why Yang becomes like his own character, because like any other adopted kid, like Micah, but we don't get that. There's lots of reasons why you can't open up Micah's head and find out what her life was like before she became adopted, and she can't articulate it at the age she is developmentally. So we get that through Yang, and I like that concept a lot, and it feels like something very unexplored in American cinema, and so it feels important, but it does feel like maybe there's also this issue, which we haven't totally mentioned yet. Like a lot has happened with AI since 2022, even though it's not that long ago. It is a long time ago in terms of where the discourse has gone and how much has changed in how we treat the concept of artificial intelligence. And the same could be said for Spielberg's AI or for any of the other titles that you mentioned, Lillian. It is strange. I don't think there's been a movie that I've watched that is so not old, but still felt like where were we with the AI conversation in 2022? I don't even remember.
Well,
I was trying to
remember-
think about that in
yeah.
the beginning as well with the dance sequence, because like I
Oh yeah, Dance Resolution.
I mean, I think I remember watching that and thinking it looked like a dance video game, but now it just looks like scrolling through a TikTok feed of
Yeah.
families doing like dances to Charlie XCX or whatever. And I don't know if that's me being sort of detached from that kind of thing, or if it was actually happening in 2022. But I did think that about the sort of these questions of connection and connecting, within the family. And as you said, this is a really interesting family in terms of sort of geographic placement and ethnic placement and that those questions of connection. And people, there's news stories all the time about people sort of developing unhealthy relationships to AI people, and I suppose those questions are I don't know. Dan, did you have something to say about where that conversation was in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had the same thought that Chris had as I was watching it, that like, oh, this is all pre-ChatGPT. So ChatGPT really launched November 2022. Like, I'm talking like it's Skynet. Skynet went online in November 2022. And so this is all filmed before that, written before that. The thing that stands out to me, and I think some reviewer, it might have been Richard Brody in The New Yorker, this is not an AI fear film.
Right.
And that in and of itself makes it unique and interesting, because most depictions of AI, before ChatGPT or whatever, I mean, since the beginning of us discussing it, the discourse surrounding it has been one of fear and paranoia and, our entry point into artificial intelligence is that it's going to destroy us. That's just the prevailing ideology that has existed for 40, 50 years now. And I find it fascinating that this film, even before ChatGPT was released, is sort of suggesting that, AI is just going to be, it's going to be this thing that exists in our life, and it's going to help us in a lot of ways, but it's going to have an intimate relationship with us. And we're going to have an intimate relationship with it. I mean, look at the sort of the love story between Yang and Ada, although we only get tidbits of it. And I think that it's even more important to sort of view this film through that lens post what has happened over the last 2-3 years, because I think the fear and just anxiety around AI has reached a point of I don't know, it's extreme at this point, because AI has taken off so much and has become such an integral part of our lives so incredibly quickly. I mean, faster than the internet ever did. And it has the potential to rearrange our lives far beyond what the internet did, and a lot faster. Even so much as, Amazon, one of the biggest companies in the world, basically said, yeah, we're going to stop hiring a lot of people because of AI. So it's happening, and it's here. And it's great to have this sort of film as an artifact perspective right before the AI revolution actually happened. And I like the take of it. I like the take on it, because I just don't. It's one of those things where, and now we're going to get I'm not going to try to get political or into sort of AI discussions, but it accepts AI as an eventuality. It's not going away. It'll become a part of our daily life, to the point where we'll probably all have AI companions, AI sort of people in our homes. And so it's I don't know, I find that aspect of it kind of calming, in the same way that Columbus was calming about brutalist architecture. This film is calming about AI, in the sense that I think I don't know, it seems like a realistic depiction of how things will probably play out, which in and of itself is an achievement. In any sort of sci-fi movie, where if it feels, and that's one of the things too that I think is fascinating about this movie, and maybe Lillian, you can comment on the cinematography here, but the way that it interplays sci-fi and naturalism, I found really unique. And it really, probably my favorite thing about this film is how, you mentioned Blade Runner before, and there's so many different sci-fi examples that we could use. And while it feels indebted to a lot of those, it definitely has its own rhythm and sort of tonal warmness to it. I don't know if there's anything in the cinematography that you would love to point out that might suggest that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Sorry, I was just having a look at the interview I did, because as I say, it was a few years ago, so I was just curious to see what Ben Loeb said to me. He said that Kogonada went to a lot of ramen shops and looked at the broths that they were eating, and they sort of unpacked the images in the broth, and that was how they and then they used that to sort of look at the spaces that they were creating. So there's a lot of sort of absence in the images. I thought that was really interesting, but they constantly referred to it as a sort of with these food metaphors, and to create tableau where you can sort of look into it and see what you might look deeper and see what there might be within it. And then they went off around New York and they shot all the little pillow shots that sort of dotted throughout the film. And I think that's quite rare in a sci-fi film, is to have moments where the film really does just take a breath in the way that Ozu sort of pioneered in his films, like just shots of trees or a wall or something, a corridor or whatever, and I think that's something that really makes this film quite unique and different. But he did talk to me a bit about that, sort of trying not to make it look like other sci-fi films in removing sort of things like technology in particular, to not show those sorts of like typically futuristic objects and machines and so forth, and I think that really is the film's strength, and why I perhaps like it more than both of you did, because I think that is, yeah, as you say, I think what you were saying about how it's approached, maybe not necessarily to AI as a concept, but certainly to sort of computer companions and robots, or whatever it is you want to term it as. There is a calmness to it, and it's not, it's sort of saying we will accept this, but at the same time it's also saying that will come at certain, not necessarily costs, but like considerations and implications. Like it will have an impact on family dynamics, and it will have an impact on the kinds of relationships that we're able to form, and ultimately it will also have an impact on how we memorialize and how we respond once we move on from these. Do we grow out of having a robot if we're a child, and the purpose of having the robot is to help assist a child? How do we reckon with the changing needs and relationships that we have to robots and AI? And I think that's, and will it adapt, I suppose, is also a significant part of that.
I did like that emotional beat a lot of Joni Turner-Smith's character discussing with Jake, Colin Farrell, about, have we relied on Yang too much? Have we let this robot raise our daughter instead of us? But I mean, I think it's worth it if we get these kind of cool self-driving cars with mossy backgrounds, right? That's an indelible shot that I loved living in those moments of the film.
And it's a different cinematographer to Columbus, which I think is interesting.
Oh yeah.
And they do these. There are similarities in these films, but visually they are very different, and I think that works for the change of genre that happens in these two, across these two films.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned pillow shots, so I think we gotta take that as our segue.
I thought that might be a useful way to do it.
It was very sly. Ozu's Late Spring. I have to go ahead and get a confession here out of the way, and maybe Dan, you can too, and then Lillian can school both of us. This was my second Ozu movie. And
It was
I don't.
my only one.
What? Whoa! Yeah.
Never seen an
Okay.
Ozu movie. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My confession is that I chose this combination of films because my knowledge of Ozu is so weak.
Interesting.
I had only seen Tokyo Story years ago, so this was my first watch of Late
Right.
Spring. So I chose it because it's such a blind spot for me, and I'm always trying to avoid it coming up. So I thought I must tackle my blind spot. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I've never I saw Tokyo Story a long time ago, and this movie has made me not only want to rewatch that, but also just go through his whole filmography. I was just like, it's one of those things where I've seen the name over and over again, and it just maybe I felt like an idiot. Like, why have I gone so long without really exploring?
I think he is one of those filmmakers like Kurosawa, where especially if you've ever studied film, that it's so constantly mentioned, and I've read so much that I feel like I have seen Ozu's filmography, and I've seen so many clips and the concepts and the themes and all of those things that I feel so familiar with, but I haven't actually. And I do remember when I watched Tokyo Story, and it was a long time ago, that I just felt so emotionally detached from it, and I thought, well, I don't want to watch that again. So watching this now I'm older has really made me think, oh my god, I must go back to Tokyo Story, and finally I might be able to understand why everyone's so obsessed with it, because I really had such an extraordinary experience watching this film.
Me too. It really caught. It seems silly because it seems like it shouldn't have caught me off guard because of how renowned he is and how much he's talked about. But it was one of those cinematic experiences where I'm just like, how was he able to do so much with so little? Like, I cannot imagine any other director, even ones that I love, tackling a story that's just between a father and daughter. Not just, but it's that's the crux of it. And basically, especially a concept in our modern day and age that has become so maligned, like the idea of the kid that won't leave their parents' house, it won't grow up. I don't know, it feels like a Judd Apatow concept, right? And yet it's done so masterfully and so intricately and subtly that I was at the end of the movie, I was I miss living with my parent. It's messed up. How much this movie just totally wrecked me.
Yeah, it's one of those films where I also too because of the Sight and Sound list, I think in 2022, which Lillian, I think you were a part of, right?
That's right. Yeah,
that's amazing. Tokyo Story is the time. I tried to watch it, and I was like, I don't know. It's it again, couldn't find my way into it at all. And so approaching this movie, I was like, okay, let's try it out. We do this podcast. We've been doing it. This is our 16th season. And about once or twice a season, a film comes along that just completely blows me away. It's on such another level. And this movie is 100% one of those films where it is an emotional just explosion, which is so ironic because the film is so quiet, it's so meditative, it is, I don't know, it's just, the emotion here is also very subtle, it's very dynamic, but by the end it just feels overwhelming. The moment when they're in Kyoto, and even as he's giving his speech to her about getting married, and she finally it comes forth what she's feeling. I don't want to leave. If you don't cry when she says that, you don't have a heart, because it is such a deeply felt emotion, and it's also a universal emotion for the most part. Right. Being close to your parent or your guardian and having to go off on your own, it's terrifying and it's scary. And here she's, 27, I think, right? Yeah, 27.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is pretty old to be doing that.
Right, for 1949, yeah.
And, it's just, God, it's one of those films that I see and I'm like, well, this is why I do all of this. This is why, we do the podcast. This is why I read Sight and Sound all the time. And this is why I track down, this, Criterion edition of this film, is for these experiences, because it really sort of opens me up to the world in a way that, art can do, only art can do. And it just, it really was amazing too. It's like also the other element to this, and I love looking at historical contexts when diving into these films. But like the post-World War II Japan world is so incredibly fascinating. And this film is just an unbelievable sort of artifact of that moment, as their world is completely changing and their society is being totally reworked by an outside force, which we see in the film. You see the Coca-Cola sign. You see them playing baseball. Like, the fact that women were divorcing was something that was introduced in the 1947 Constitution that we forced on them. Americans, that is. So there's the emotional depth and richness that I adore on this movie, and it is undeniable. But there's also this historical context that was all clearly intentional and written into this that is fascinating from a historical and socio-political context as well. So it's just, I don't know, just an amazing film through and through, and I could gush about it for a very long time.
Lillian, what was the aspect of Late Spring that, because I feel like we might all have either the exact same or completely different answers, that felt like that crystallized moment of like, what this is something special. It seems like for Dan, it's when she finally confesses that she does not want to leave. And I love Ebert's headline for his write-up on the film is "Sadness Beneath the Smiles," and the way that this actor, who goes on to become one of Ozu's mainstays throughout the rest of his career, the way she's able to have so many different variations on that sadness beneath the smile is huge. But I have a different answer, and I'm wondering if you do too.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that I think what just completely won me over instantly was Setsuguhara's smile at the start of the film. I just thought, my gosh, this woman is, I don't know, it's one of those, she's one of those actresses that you just know that Ozu is sort of similarly mesmerized by, and you just sort of follow with her. And it's, I think that, I mean, I keep coming back to Ishiguro because he's my favorite writer, but it is that sort of that idea of a surface and then these emotions happening underneath. And I think one of my favorite quotes that I've ever read about Ishiguro's work is, I think Salman Rushdie wrote something about Remains of the Day, and he said that, while nothing happens, everything happens. And I just feel that that's exactly what happens in this film. I mean, it's, as you say, it's such a simple plot, but even if you look at the Wikipedia page for this film, it's so much about style and narrative and interpretations and like this. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I mean, I didn't even sort of, it's fun to read about and to reflect on, but at the heart of it was, as you say, this very real and raw relationship between a father and a daughter, which to me is, I mean, I went home for the weekend and I saw my dad for the first time in a while, and I was watching this, and I just, it was a bit much, because it's just, it's that idea of the fact that she's 27, as you say, she is older, and clearly that's something that she hasn't, for whatever reason, she hasn't wanted to let go of, and I think that the way that plays out, and when we realize what sort of ruse has happened to get her to leave is, it's so beautiful, but it's also heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's one thing that's so beautiful about the movie is that you're able. I don't know the last time I've seen a movie where you're able to completely see the conflict at hand from both sides. You absolutely get it in spades with Hara's performance as Noriko, but for me, the one that I feel is worth mentioning and needs to be mentioned is a scene where it's after the No performance, the play, and Noriko has figured out, that like her father might want to remarry or might want to, have another relationship with somebody that's not her and not her mother. And the way that Chishu Ryu, the actor, just does those very like matter of fact nods and like that, it just crushed me. Like the way that he's able to hold all of that. Similarly, it's like almost like this inverse of Noriko's smile and what's the father's name? Samaya. His kind of you can see the machinations, especially once you know the ending. Because at that point in the film, since it's my first watch, I'm not totally sold, but I'm also trying to like just think like, oh, he's just underselling it because he doesn't want to hurt her feelings. But then you find out that he's also got that thought in his head of like, I'm doing this lie, but it's for what I think is best, or it's for what society expects of us all. And then, I can't even, I will not be able to talk about peeling the apple at the end of the movie without falling into my own puddle of tears. I think those elements are so huge and so important. And yet, once again, our segue into talking about Late Spring was the pillow shots. And I don't know about you guys, but I spent way too much time on the internet after watching Late Spring, reading as much as I could about the vase at the it feels incumbent upon us, if we're talking about this movie, what is Ozu doing here? And it almost feels like a natural part of film language today, especially after Yang and seeing how important that kind of cutaway has become, especially in these kind of quiet domestic dramas. What's your take? What did you feel like a very, very like pronounced like, why are we cutting to this vase, or whether it's the waves at the very end of the movie?
Which is funny you bring that up, because on Criterion Channel there's a commentary, and I forget who the film critic is or the film scholar who does the commentary, but I was listening to it last night, and he goes on the last shot of the waves, which I was like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, I was like, a little bit strange to do that. It's a little bit jarring. But then I was listening to the film critic commentary, and he's like, this is this is a false note, he says. And I'm like, no, it's not. The shot of the waves is not a false note. It is exactly what Ozu is trying to do throughout the entire film. He's intertwining natural life with emotional life. And he's very clearly doing this, and he's doing it through stillness and these low shots, and he is pushing us into the world in a way that we don't normally do. And it is, I think if you go back and watch the 10 most successful films in 1949 from the U.S. Hollywood system, and you watch this, it is a different language, literally and visually. It is so different than what was being made at the time, and that cannot be understated. And I think in a lot of ways, watching a film like this now, and I'd never heard the term pillow. Is it pillow shot? Is that what it is?
Pillow shot, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that term because it just, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it or something. It just feels almost like it's denigrating what's happening. I don't know, like the ability to do that, and what you choose to shoot with these sort of interstitial shots and moving sort of the story forward. He's so masterful with it. And I don't know, it's obviously Columbus. After Yang has some of this element without a doubt, but Columbus feels even way more indebted to Late Spring.
Absolutely.
Right, in terms of the shots. And yeah, I don't know. It's to me, it feels like this style that he is sort of manifested here, obviously makes me want to go and watch all of his movies, which I haven't seen any of them. But I don't know. I guess the thing that I'm trying to rambling to get out here is, do you feel like this style, this pillow shot, whatever you want to call it, has kind of taken roots in filmmaking? Am I so unschooled and uneducated in film theory and all film history that like this feels still kind of an alternative viewpoint to speak? Lillian, you probably can speak to this more than either than Chris, because you kind of have the deepest background in film history. Does it feel unique to you still and kind of on its own little island?
Yeah, I think certainly at the time when he's I mean, it's what I said earlier, is that I just appreciate a film that breathes. I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once is one of my least favorite films, because it's a film that does not breathe. It's relentless.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Columbus is like, it's like getting into a warm bath, because it's just like, and it emulates the spaces of Saarinen's architecture, which is what he's really doing in that film, which is what's so wonderful. I mean, it's one of the best films about architecture that I've seen, because it just really captures that sense of space, and that is coming from Ozu. So I suppose that's what I sometimes miss that now when I watch films. I mean, there was two things that I was thinking of while you were both talking, particularly in relation to that shot of the vase. The first was that when Perfect Days came out, Wim Wenders' latest film, I went to a Q&A, and he said that he's obsessed with Ozu, and Perfect Days is very much a film that he made in Japan, and has a lot of that sort of... I mean, that's another great film about architecture, specifically of public lavatories, which is, an extraordinary thing. But he said that when he went to Japan and watched all of Ozu's films, but they didn't have subtitles. He had no idea what any of the characters were saying, and he just became so obsessed and enriched with the imagery of the films. And I think that's such, like, I had that in mind while I was watching Late Spring, of like, we've already talked about expression and that sort of communication. You can actually get a sense of the story even if you don't know what they're saying, while you're watching it, and those pillow shots are, they are artistic compositions, and I think that they really do sort of capture a passing of time in a way that isn't something that many other films, there's the obsession with sort of aging actors and so forth in order to show the passing of time. But actually, if you just hold still for a few minutes, that the 6-second shot of a vase feels like an eternity in a film, in a 2-hour film. And Terence Davis is probably the greatest example of this. I mean, there's a direction in the script of The Long Day Closes which literally just says "hold on the floor," and this shot of the rug in the hallway of Terence's house in Liverpool in the 1950s, and the camera holds on this rug, and the light changes through the window, and it's sort of from the perspective that he would have had as a child, sitting on the bottom step looking at the rug, and it moves, and George Butterworth's Shropshire Lad plays over the top of it, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. But Terence, I remember reading that Terence used to like to repeat an anecdote where this woman once shouted at him, like, how long your films are so boring, how dare you just like, what's so interesting about a floor? But it's, years pass in that shot, and it captures so much, and it really holds. I mean, it's a lot longer than any of the pillow shots in Ozu's films, so it's that's almost taken to an extreme to hold on something like that. But I think I find it personally very meditative and very moving. I mean, it's amazing how much power is held within those images, and I think that the shot of the vase is one of the finest examples of that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's hypnotic. I think when I say like these kinds of pillow shot-esque pieces of cinematography that we see today. I guess I'm talking very specifically about this. This might be conflating two completely different terms, but like the slow cinema of today, whether it's Kelly Reichardt or Jim Jarmusch, not very select titles of Jarmusch's, but I felt the same kind of like peacefulness, like ultimate serenity here that I did when I saw Mystery Train for the first time, or when I saw Old Joy for the first time. Even Schrader, who before he became a screenwriter and then a filmmaker, was a very devout scholar of Japanese film, including Ozu, and he has one of the most kind of prevalent interpretations of the American, where
I wasn't sure if I should change my pronunciation.
No, you're good. It sounds so much better, but I just can't do it. Where he connects it to transcendentalism, which we'll talk about in more depth, whether Dan likes it or not, in a few episodes when we go over First Reformed, where he sees this kind of like anti-narrative aspect as something that's way more, like he says, unified and permanent than what we are so typically accustomed to, or have become like hyper accustomed to, once again, to disparage everything everywhere all at once. That kind of propulsive, like nonstop narrative, like it's a very American viewpoint in terms of filmmaking. And going back to your point, Dan, about the American films of the 40s, it's interesting because Ozu also famously loved American movies, and he was one of those old school guys that was just like couldn't say enough good things about Citizen Kane and Orson Welles. But also, like, Late Spring didn't actually make it over to the States until 1972. Yeah. Which is an insane amount of time. Like, obviously, there were so many post-war elements, including the occupation and censorship, that kept it out. But like, even that's a longer period of time than it took a Kurosawa movie or a Godzilla movie to get to the States. And I think part of that is that it's almost it's a double-edged sword, because yes, it's so quiet and so reflective, but so much of what you were saying earlier, Dan, about the Coca-Cola imagery and the baseball, it's also so quietly rebellious. Yes, and it's so incredible that Ozu was able to get all of that past the censorship board, and like a Hays Code movie that still is able to push against the system. And I think that's what makes it so special. And I think that's another reason why I then think of like Reichardt and Jarmusch and these other kind of filmmakers, where it's like, I might have, as a teen, been completely enamored with Everything Everywhere All at Once, just like I was when I, saw Pulp Fiction at 15 or whatever, and became obsessed with Tarantino. And then I grow up, and then I'm like, I don't know if I can watch a Tarantino movie. And it's like I'd get really enamored by this other style of going against the grain. And I think I don't know. I don't know where to go next with Ozu. Do you guys know what you're going to try to queue up next?
I'm going to go back to Tokyo. I have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have to. And then I want to see it in colour. I want to see his colour films. Whenever I see clips from them, I think, God, that looks amazing. I must watch it. And I haven't, so I must.
I have a curveball question here. Question. If Late Spring was made today, would it be an A24 movie?
You're going to ask this
every single time.
Was Perfect Days an A24?
It was not. Perfect Days was Mubi, I believe. I'll have to check it really quick.
Was it Mubi? Yeah, it was Mubi. Yeah. You're quite right.
And I don't even know if
maybe Late Spring would be a Mubi movie.
Right, exactly.
It seems
more Mubi also made The Substance, which is...
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's true. Well, Mubi's changed in direction a lot in recent years from what they were originally picking up. So,
And I will say that, like, your point earlier, Lillian, about seeing A24 more for its quieter side, and it probably gets overshadowed by the larger side, is like, I still see some elements, like, I saw the TV Glow as a really interesting example of a movie that happens to both be really, like, in your face, but also very meditative.
yeah.
Obviously, anything that's coming from why am I blanking on the name right now? Rose Glass, once again, very in your face, but also, like, Saint Maud is not your average horror movie. So I don't know. I hope that they continue with this. It seems unlikely with the amount of success they're seeing with, like, Philippou movies and Garland and all that. But I hope so.
Yeah.
But I would say no, Dan.
Yeah, it feels like there's the quiet side of A24, which Lillian, you talked about loving, and that's also my favorite side of A24 as well. Although I also love the bombastic side. But yeah, this definitely feels more like a movie film, or I don't think Neon would do this. Neon's a little too bombastic as well these days. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the really quiet movies are going to go if A24 does make this shift over to, they want to do blockbusters, Civil War, warfare. So I don't know where a movie like Late Spring would fit in.
I suppose Minari is a one that might be compared. I'm just trying to think of what would be most similar. I suppose something like like that film would be
Past Lives maybe too.
Yeah,
Right.
Past Lives as well.
Yeah.
We have definitely hit our hour mark, but we have trivia still to do.
do it.
We wrap it up with
Brilliant.
best out of 5 wins. I'm going to read a quote from a director of an A24 film. There's a graphic, if you like to challenge yourself with a film bank to choose from. And the quote is about what film or films the director looked at when making their film for A24. So name which A24 film you think the director is talking about.
Do we interrupt you?
Yeah, feel free.
Okay.
Oh, this is all aggressive. Okay, oh no, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
First to it wins. Okay. Number 1. When I first started my own dramaturgical research, there were 2 questions I asked myself and my collaborators. Can you cite any movies off the top of your head where the black woman is a superhero? She has agency. The second question was, can you cite movies where you've seen black and white women together? The first that comes to mind is Jackie Brown.
Zola.
Zola.
Yeah, that's Zola. You got it.
Which is a great movie. Have you guys seen it?
I love that film.
Oh, I love it.
I am conflicted, but
It's
that's another
it's a
podcast.
little, I don't know, definitely a little slimy and gritty. So
All right, number 2. I have such an affinity for The Long Day Closes because it was one of Davis's movies that I first saw. It has such an elegant way in how it presents the film as a memory, which is the opening shot, which relates to my film. There's no other
After Sun.
reference. Yeah, you got it, Lillian.
nice.
Which is another movie that I love that Dan dislikes.
I'm like the only person in the world who dislikes that movie, and I hate myself for it every day. But such is life.
Yep. Number 3. Willow quickly became one of my favorite movies. I got the toys, the sticker book, the novelization, the book
Green
on tape.
Knight. Why not?
Yeah. David Lowery and his zaniness. So I think that is 2 for Lillian, 1 for Dan. Let's see if you can get the hat trick, Lillian. Here's a weird one. Many of the scenes in Taking Off feel to me like that one story about your parents that always kills at a party. I think this is because Milos Forman is willing to extend sympathy where lesser artists might have peeled off toward ridicule.
The Whale.
Yeah, I heard Lamb. What did you say, Dan?
No, I think we both said The Whale.
We both
The
said
Whale.
The Whale.
Oh, no, it's not The Whale.
Oh.
Oh.
Here's a little more
Okay.
of the quote. Just watch the great opening sequence from Taking Off, which Foreman captured by holding a fake open call audition in the West Village. It's simultaneously moving and vulnerable, and the fact that it never feels mean-spirited or exploitative is a testament to his humanism and empathy.
Red Rocket?
Nope.
Lamb?
Nope.
You're killing. This is tough.
Oof.
It's the only one here that has a faux documentary element, like Taking Off.
Oh, Marcel?
Yeah,
X.
Marcel the Shell.
Oh,
Which I've
Marcel.
never seen.
Oh my gosh,
I have not seen Marcel.
I've
it's so
avoided it.
wonderful.
I saw the
Like-
trailer like 100 times. Like, I can't do this.
I know it's very much for A24 parents like myself, but it's quite beautiful. And last but not least, this is the tiebreaker.
Okay.
We did look at some films like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but not many others because it was really clear that I could get enough clues from the written word of where to put the camera and how to tell a story. The actors would have enough ideas of how to block the film based on just how truthful and realistic their characters were painted. Normally, we watch a lot of movies beforehand to get ideas. There weren't many comps for us on this one.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
No.
I'll go with bodies.
Nope.
Oh.
It's here. The last bit of the quote is, "It really came out of what Sam had written for his play, which one's
The
based on a
Whale.
play." There
That's
you
The
go.
Nice.
Yeah, there's Darren Aronofsky of this, trademark pretension of.
Have you seen the trailer to his new movie?
Yeah, I saw it.
It looks
before
phenomenal.
Superman.
It looks phenomenal.
We'll see.
Comes out in August. They put it in the gutter slot, so it's not going to be bad.
Lillian, thanks so much for joining us on Film Trace. It was so
My
wonderful to
pleasure.
have you back.
Thank you so much for having me.
What do you
And
have coming
listen-
up, Lillian? Any new writings? Any new podcast stuff coming up?
Oh, trying to think.
I saw the Superman article you did was fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was a recent one. I've just done some stuff on Sarah Kane for the BBC. I've done a piece on The Rehearsal, which is coming out soon. So yeah, a few
Nice.
things to come.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks. And what we got coming up next week, we're going to have our next episode. Oh, we're doing Under the Silver Lake.
Yeah, you ready,
which
Dan?
is just
What a film!
cannot wait to talk about that with you guys. It's gonna be amazing. Thanks for listening. This has been Film Trace.